What if you could buy sunlight? Imagine it's 11:37 p.m. Your neighborhood is dark. The sun set hours ago. Then someone opens an app, taps a button, and buys 20 minutes of sunlight. Not a floodlight, not a giant lamp, actual sunlight, bounced from space by a mirror orbiting Earth. For a few minutes, your street looks like afternoon, and then the light moves on. This sounds like science fiction, but a real startup called Reflect Orbital says it wants to do something close to this. They want to use satellites with large mirrors to reflect sunlight down to specific places on Earth after sunset. Which raises a very weird question. What happens if night becomes something you can buy? The basic idea is simple. A satellite flies around Earth in low orbit. Even after your city has rotated into darkness, the satellite may still be high enough to see the sun. So if it has a mirror, it can catch sunlight and redirect some of it back down. Reflect Orbital describes its concept as on-demand, adjustable light from space, aimed at approved users on Earth. Their public materials talk about light delivered over areas around several kilometers wide, with brightness that can be adjusted. The dream version sounds almost magical. A solar farm could keep producing power after sunset. A disaster zone could get light without setting up generators. Farmers could extend work hours. Construction crews could keep building. Remote towns near the poles could get extra daylight during long dark seasons. However, this is not the first time humans have tried to put a mirror in space. In 1993, Russia tested an orbital mirror called Znamya 2. It was a 20-meter wide reflector deployed from a spacecraft near the Mir space station. For a short time, it created a bright spot on Earth about 5 kilometers wide, moving across Europe at orbital speed. Reports describe it as roughly comparable to moonlight, not daylight. So yes, reflecting sunlight from space is physically possible, but it's not easy. A later Russian test, Znamya 2.5, failed when the mirror got caught during deployment. The program was eventually abandoned. That's the first reality check. Space mirrors are simple in a diagram, but brutal in real life. The mirror has to unfold correctly, point accurately, survive radiation, debris, and temperature swings, avoid becoming another piece of space junk, and somehow aim reflected sunlight at a moving target on a spinning planet while the satellite itself is moving thousands of meters per second. Which is basically like trying to use a hand mirror to flash sunlight onto one moving car from another moving car, except both cars are in space. Here's the important part. This probably would not look like full daytime. Some public estimates and critics describe proposed illumination levels as brighter than a full moon, but far dimmer than the actual sun at noon. And that matters. For humans, even a few times brighter than moonlight could feel dramatic in a dark landscape. It might be enough to help with visibility, certain outdoor tasks, or possibly solar panel experiments. But replacing the sun? Not even close. The name Sunlight on Demand is clickable, but the reality is more like renting a moving patch of enhanced moonlight. Still, that can be powerful, because darkness is not just the absence of light, it is a system. Animals use darkness to migrate, hunt, hide, sleep, and reproduce. Humans use it to regulate circadian rhythms. Astronomers need it to see the universe. Cities already struggle with light pollution from the ground. Now imagine adding moving artificial moons from above. Once you can sell reflected sunlight, the useful cases are only the beginning. A solar farm buys 15 extra minutes of light. Fine. A mining company buys light for a remote site. Okay. A city buys light after a blackout. That sounds useful, but then what? A ski resort buys artificial sunset. A music festival buys midnight daylight. A billionaire buys a private sunrise. A company projects a bright patch over a publicity stunt. And suddenly the question changes. It's no longer, can we reflect sunlight from space? It's, who gets to decide where night is allowed to exist? Because from the ground, light feels local. You turn on a lamp in your room. But from orbit, light is territorial. It spills across neighborhoods, habitats, skies, borders. One customer's useful light could be someone else's ruined sleep, disrupted telescope, or confused wildlife. The scariest version is not one mirror. It's a business model. One satellite is an experiment. A few satellites are a service. Thousands become infrastructure. And once night becomes infrastructure, it becomes political. Should a private company be able to brighten a patch of Earth from space? Who approves it? The country below? The country that launched it? The people inside the beam? Astronomers, pilots, wildlife agencies, neighboring countries. This is where the story stops being about mirrors and starts being about ownership. For almost all of human history, night was one of the few things nobody could fully privatize. You could light your house, you could light your street, you could light a stadium, but you could not order a piece of the sky. Space mirrors challenge that. They turn darkness into a service. Maybe space mirrors will never become practical. Maybe they'll be too expensive, too controversial, too weak, or too hard to control. Or maybe in a few decades, buying extra light will feel normal, solar farms will schedule it, emergency crews will request it, cities will debate it, someone will complain that their neighbor bought too much sky, and we'll look back at natural night the way we now look at silence, something that used to be everywhere until technology found a way to fill it. So the real question is not whether we can buy sunlight at night, but should we? If you made it this far into the video, let me know in the comments what you would do with your 20 minutes of sunlight.